Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Taro Izumi, and I'm the project leader of the JIRCAS, Japan International Research Center for Agriculture Sciences Climate Change Project. Today, I will present the science and technology as a key solution to adapt to climate change in the Mekong Delta. Case studies from the JIRCAS CTU project. I will take you through the following topics through my presentation. I will start with the history of the joint research between JIRCAS and CTU. And following the major research highlights of the JIRCAS CTU project, I will then outline of the biogas research in the context of climate change. Finally, I will highlight the future of the biogas research in Mekong Delta. Firstly, I will briefly describe the history of the joint research between JIRCAS and CTU. In 1991, JIRCAS and CTU started their first joint research project titled Poverty Reduction and Rural Settlement. Following this, the integrated farming system project was implemented over 10 years. After that, the joint research was temporarily interrupted, but resumed in 2008. Since 2008, we have been conducting joint research on climate change mitigation and adaptation measures. In 2020, JIRCAS celebrated its 50th anniversary, and at that time, the rector of CTU sent us a congratulatory message like this slide. I will now discuss the major research highlights of the JIRCAS CTU project. This was our first topic of our research on water management to reduce methane emissions from paddy field, to evaluate the effect of a simplified form of alternate wetting and drying, or AWD, that we call the multiple drainage on rice field, and emissions of methane and N2O in Hainan province. We carried out 2-year field experiment at 3 remote sites. We compared multiple drainage and continuous flooding water management at each site and conventional agronomic practices through 6 consecutive rice growing seasons. Rice yield was significantly increased by 22% in multiple drainage plots relative to continuous flooding plot. Seasonal total methane emissions were significantly reduced by 35% in multiple drainage plots, but no difference was found in N2O emissions. These results indicate that multiple drainage, if adequately implemented, can increase rice yield and decrease methane emissions. The second topic of our research was to evaluate the effect of AWD on the environment and the farm household economy by life cycle assessment, LCA. This study showed that AWD in farming lowered the use of nitrogen fertilizer and the operation hours of irrigation pumps, etc., without reducing the yield. Despite a 70% increase in N2O emissions, life cycle greenhouse gas emissions were reduced by 41%. The third topic of our research was on use of biogas effluent as fertilizer for rice production. In a triple rice cropping system in the Mekong Delta, the application of biogas effluent as fertilizer increased methane emission by 19% relative to synthetic fertilizer application. Combining the biogas effluent with multiple drainage decreased methane emissions by 11 to 13%, and N2O emissions by 35 to 54% without loss of rice yield relative to the conventional practice with synthetic fertilizer and continuous flatting. As a result, the global warming potential CO2 equivalent of combined methane and N2O emissions and grain yield scaled global warming potential were also reduced by the proposed combination practices. The fourth topic of our research was methane emission reduction from livestock production, the effect of cashew nut shell liquid feeding on methane emissions and the luminal microbiome of rice and beef cattle were investigated. Cashew nut shell liquid feeding mitigated around 20% of methane emissions in vivo without apparent adverse effect on feed intake and feed digestibility. Our findings demonstrate that cashew nut shell liquid feeding can mitigate methane emissions from the local cattle production system in Vietnam. The fifth topic of our research was biogas digester, or BD, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and provide benefits to households. For the mitigation technology to be disseminated widely, it should be beneficial to households. In Mekong Delta, Vietnam, the installation of biogas digester is one of the mitigation actions taken to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. This study, therefore, aimed to clarify whether biogas digester realizes both mitigation and household benefits. I will discuss more detail this topic, the next part. From this slide, I will discuss the outline of the biogas research in the context of climate change. In this research, we formulated a clean development mechanism project as a part of rural development to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and provide benefits to households. This is the outline of the biogas CDM project. This project is the first biogas CDM project to directly benefit low-income households as well as the environment in Vietnam. I will now describe the progress of the CDM project. The first carbon credit were issued in June 2015. To disseminate the biogas digester technology, 26 key farmers were trained. A key farmer is defined as a skilled farmer who acquired appropriate techniques relating to biogas digester system, such as installing, operating, and maintenance. This slide shows the progress of biogas digester installation. As of May 2015, 515 units were installed, supported by key farmers. And this is how those 515 biogas households were distributed. And this table summarizes the result of first monitoring period from June 2013 to May 2014. In this period, biogas was used on 25.7% of the total days across 435 households. This figure shows the changes in cooking fuel usage pre- and post-biogas digester installation from a sample of 66 households. 50 households used firewood, 48 used LP gas, and 54 used electricity for cooking prior to biogas digester installation. Following the biogas digester installation, these figures dropped to 19, 13, and 39 respectively, with 58 of households using biogas. These are the changes in average cooking fuel consumption per household. Prior to biogas digester installation, this shows the amount of firewood and LP gas that were used annually for cooking. After biogas digester installation, these figures decreased as seen in the slide. These are the changes in average GHG emissions per household. GHG emissions were reduced from 2.41 to 0.54 tons CO2 annually. And these are the changes in average expenses for cooking fuel per household. Total annual savings per household to fuel expenses were estimated around $95. And this table summarizes the changes related to farm household cooking fuels prior to and following the biogas digester installation. And this is the cost-benefit cash flow for farm household. Net present value was calculated at $214, showing a clear benefit to household employing biogas digester technology. Finally, I will present the future of biogas research in Mekong Delta, adapting to climate change through science and technology. Currently, the world is facing global warming concerns and the problem of rising prices of energy and chemical fertilizers. Biogas digesters can contribute to reduce greenhouse gas emission, pollution, and supply energy and fertilizers by effectively utilizing the abundant local resources in the Mekong Delta. In particular, the Mekong Delta is a major rice production area in Vietnam, and it is hoped that the energy and fertilizers supplied by biogas digesters will be utilized for rice production. However, in order to establish this system, various issues remain. For example, application of biogas effluent to a farmer's field in practice, and GIRCAS and CTU will continue joint research to solve these issues. This was a brief description of achievement and future plan of the GIRCAS CTU project. I believe our effort will contribute to the sustainable development of the Mekong Delta. I thank you for your attention.